The diplomatic lounge smelled like recycled air and tension. Ambassador Renan Ortiz watched through the massive window as 3 dozen warships materialized in Earth's orbit, each one larger than a city block. Their hulls gleamed with weapon arrays that could crack planets. The Calthurian Empire had arrived to deliver their ultimatum. Her tablet buzzed with the incoming message. Supreme Commander Vorthen's face filled the screen, all 4 of his eyes narrowing with what his species probably thought was intimidating authority. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship pulsed with threatening red light. "Humans of Earth," Vorthen began, his translator rendering his words in flat, emotionless English. "You stand before the might of the Calthurian Empire. We have conquered 47 star systems. Your primitive world is now part of our domain. You have 1 rotation of your planet to surrender all military assets and submit to our governance. Resistance will result in total annihilation." Renan stared at the screen for 3 full seconds, then she laughed. It started as a chuckle, but grew into full-bodied laughter that echoed through the observation deck. Vorthen's face shifted through several colors, confusion evident even across species barriers. "You find your extinction amusing?" Vorthen asked. Renan wiped her eyes, still grinning. "I'm sorry, I really am. It's just that you're the 3rd species this year to threaten us with annihilation. Hold on." She tapped her tablet. "Let me show you something." She transmitted a file to the Calthurian flagship. Vorthen opened it, his expression changing as he scrolled through the contents. "This is historical data from our 20th century, Renan explained. "That's footage of something we called the Cold War. See those missiles? Each one carried enough explosive power to level multiple cities. We had thousands of them, pointing at ourselves." Vorthen watched the archival footage in silence. Submarines lurking in dark waters, missile silos hidden across continents, bomber aircraft on eternal patrol. All of it designed by humans to destroy other humans. "Your species threatened itself with extinction?" Vorthen asked slowly. "For about 50 years, yeah. We got pretty good at it too. See that device?" Renan pointed to a grainy image of a massive bomb. "We tested that one in 1961. It created a fireball 5 miles wide and broke windows 100 kilometers away. Then we built bigger ones and just kept them in storage, just in case." Vorthen's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "This makes no strategic sense. Why build weapons you cannot use?" "Oh, we could use them. That was the whole point. We built them specifically so that using them would be completely insane. Mutually assured destruction, we called it. If you attack us, we destroy you, but the retaliation destroys us too, so nobody attacks anybody." "That is madness," Vorthen said. "Yeah, well, it worked. Eventually we got tired of threatening ourselves and decided to be friends instead. Took a few centuries, but we figured it out." Renan smiled pleasantly. "So when you show up with your intimidation fleet and tell us you'll destroy our planet, we just think about all the times we almost did it to ourselves and realize you're really not that scary in comparison." Vorthen was quiet for a long moment. "You are bluffing. No species survives by threatening itself." "We did want to see more. I've got footage from World War II. We dropped 2 atomic bombs on our own species just to end a war faster. Or how about the time a single Soviet officer decided not to launch nuclear missiles because he thought the alarm system might be broken? One guy, one choice, and he saved about half the planet from incineration. We lived like that for decades." The Calthurian commander's colors shifted again. "Your species is unstable. This makes you more dangerous, not less." "Maybe, but here's the thing, Vorthen. You showed up here thinking we'd be terrified of your ships. We're not. We spent so long being terrified of each other that external threats just don't hit the same way anymore. Your fleet out there, it's impressive, sure, but we've been staring down threats of total annihilation since before we left our own atmosphere. It's kind of our thing." Vorthen glanced at something off-screen. One of his officers must have spoken because he looked back at Renan with something that might have been concern. "My tactical officer informs me that your planet has defensive installations. Many of them." "Oh yeah, we've got those. Most of them are converted Cold War hardware. We kept the missile silos and launch platforms, just upgraded them for space defense. Seemed wasteful to throw them away. Renat pulled up another file. This one's my favorite. It's a railgun platform on Luna. We built it to shoot down asteroids, but it works on ships. 2. Want to see a demonstration? That will not be necessary, Vorthen said quickly. You sure? We've got mining charges in the asteroid belt that can fragment a kilometer of solid rock in about 15 seconds. Industrial equipment, really, but it works great as a demonstration of payload delivery systems. Vorthen was definitely a different color now. You weaponized your industrial equipment. We weaponized everything at some point. Force of habit. Look, I don't want to be rude, but I should probably mention that Earth's actual defense fleet hasn't even launched yet. What you're seeing on your sensors is just our orbital guard. The real warships are still in dock. How many vessels does humanity possess? Renat checked her tablet. About 200 combat-ready ships in the solar defense fleet. Then there's the various national forces, private security fleets, and the mining consortiums have some fairly well-armed vessels. Maybe 1,000 total if everybody contributes. Vorthen's face went through several more color changes. You built 1,000 warships for a single solar system. Well, we used to threaten each other, remember? We got really good at building weapons, and when we stopped fighting amongst ourselves, we just kept building them in case somebody else showed up. Like you did. Renas smiled again. So, about that surrender demand, I think you might want to reconsider your approach. The transmission ended abruptly. Renau watched the Calthurian fleet hold position in orbit, no longer advancing, no longer broadcasting threats. She picked up her coffee, took a sip, and sent a message to Admiral Patricia Wung. They're thinking about it, she wrote. Give them an hour, they'll want to talk terms. Outside the window, Earth continued its slow rotation, peaceful and unafraid beneath the shadow of an invasion fleet that had just learned a very important lesson about humanity. The Calthurian command deck hummed with quiet tension as Vorthen reviewed the human historical files for the 5th time. Around him, his senior officers maintained their posts, but he could sense their unease. 3 hours had passed since the human ambassador had laughed at their invasion fleet. Chief Analyst Morven approached, his scales displaying the muted blues of concern. Commander, I have completed analysis of the human psychological profile. Tell me this species makes sense, Vorthen said. They do. Not, sir, at least not by our standards. Morven pulled up a holographic display. Humans possess what their psychologists call oppositional defiance. When threatened, instead of calculating survival odds and submitting to superior force, they become angry and stubborn. Threat displays make them more likely to fight, not less. Vorthen watched footage of human history playing across multiple screens. Massive armies clashing, cities burning, mushroom clouds rising over islands. How did they survive long enough to reach space? That is the remarkable part, sir. They almost did not. According to their records, they came within minutes of total nuclear war at least 6 documented times. They lived for decades under constant threat of self-extinction. Madness, Vorthen muttered. Perhaps, but it shaped their entire psychology. Humans do not fear existential threats the way we do because they grew up with those threats as background noise. Their children played games simulating nuclear war. Their entertainment featured planetary destruction regularly. They normalized the abnormal. Another officer spoke up. Commander, incoming communication from the human military coordinator. The screen flickered, showing an older human woman in a dark blue uniform. Her hair was steel gray, and her eyes held the calm certainty of someone who had made difficult decisions before. Supreme Commander Vorthen, I am Admiral Patricia Wung, Earth's United Defense Coordinator. I thought we should talk. Vorthen straightened. Admiral, your ambassador found our terms amusing. Renat has a sense of humor about these things, comes from studying too much history. Wung folded her hands on her desk. I want to be clear with you, Commander. We're not laughing because we think you're weak. We're laughing because you're using a strategy that stopped working on humans about 200 years ago. Intimidation has succeeded across 47 systems, Vorthen said. I believe you, but those species probably didn't spend 50,000 years fighting themselves for every scrap of territory on their planet. Humans are different. We unified our homeworld through violence and competition. We literally fought our way to peace. Vorthen leaned forward. Your planet appears divided. We detect multiple governments, competing military forces, different languages and cultures. This is not unity. Wang actually smiled. You're absolutely right. We argue constantly. Different nations, different ideologies, different priorities. But here's what you need to understand. The moment an external threat appears, all that competition becomes cooperation. We have 2,000 years of documented history showing this pattern. Humans unite fastest when someone threatens us from outside. Even if that threat is overwhelming. Especially then, the bigger the threat, the faster we unite. It's almost reflexive at this point. Wang pulled up her own display. Let me show you something. These are readiness reports from our various military forces: Russian, Chinese, American, European, African Union, Pacific Coalition. Every one of them went to full alert status within 6 minutes of your fleet arriving. Not because I ordered them to, because that's what humans do. Vorthen studied the data. It showed exactly what she described. Separate military organizations moving in perfect synchronization without centralized command. Your species should not function this way, Vorthen said quietly. We know, we've had aliens tell us that before, but here's the thing, Commander. We spent so long fighting each other that we got really, really good at warfare. Then when we stopped fighting each other, we still remembered all those lessons. We just repurposed them. Your vessels, Vorthen said. We detected them. The names are unusual, proportional response, inevitable consequence, last resort. These are not victory names. No, they're warning names. Every ship in our fleet is named after a concept, not a battle. We name them after what they represent, not what they've done. Proportional response means we'll match your aggression level. Inevitable consequence means actions have results. Last resort means we tried everything else first. Morven spoke quietly. Commander, this naming convention suggests they view military force as a tool of policy, not glory. Wang must have heard because she nodded. Your analyst is correct. We don't build warships because we want to use them. We build them so we don't have to. It's the same logic that kept us from annihilating ourselves during the Cold War. If you're strong enough and everyone knows it, you rarely need to prove it. You are asking us to believe humanity is both aggressive and peaceful, Vorthen asked. We're practical. Fighting is expensive, destructive, and usually pointless. We learned that. Lesson the hard way, over and over again, until it finally stuck. Now we prefer trade, cooperation, shared development. But we remember how to fight, and we're prepared to do it if we must. Vorthen looked at his tactical displays. The human defensive platforms, the orbital installations, the fleet signatures. All of it positioned with precision that suggested extensive practice. What do you want, Admiral? I want you to leave Earth's orbit, go back to your government, and tell them humanity is open to diplomatic relations and trade agreements. We have industrial techniques you'd find valuable. You have technology we'd like to study. We can both benefit from cooperation. And if we refuse? Wang's expression did not change. Then you'll learn exactly why humans name their warships after consequences instead of victories. I really hope you don't make that choice, Commander. We've been at peace for 150 years. We'd like to keep it that way. The transmission ended. Vorthen sat in silence, considering his options. Around him, his officers waited. Analysis, he said finally. Morven spoke carefully. Sir, I believe the humans are sincere. They prefer peace but are genuinely prepared for war. Their psychology, their history, their military structure all support this assessment. Recommendation. Open negotiations. The Calthurian Empire gains nothing from conflict with a species this unstable and this well-armed. Vorthen made his decision. Contact the human admiral. Inform her I wish to discuss terms. He would report this to the High Council eventually. But first, He needed to understand exactly what humanity was offering and what it would cost to refuse. The civilian mining vessel looked like it had survived several decades of hard use and inadequate maintenance. Its hull bore scorch marks from asteroid debris, faded corporate logos from 3 different companies, and safety warnings in 12 languages. Captain Robert Hayes guided the ship toward the designated demonstration target with the casual confidence of someone who had done this job 1,000 times before. Vorthen watched from his flagship as the battered mining ship approached a 200-kilometer asteroid that human traffic control had cleared for the demonstration. The asteroid was solid nickel iron, dense enough to show clearly on all sensors. "This is your military demonstration," Weapons Officer Selter asked a civilian mining vessel. Admiral Wang's voice came through the communication channel, sounding amused. "Robert's ship is pretty standard for belt operations. He was closest when we asked for volunteers, so he gets to show you how we process asteroids." "Greetings, fancy alien warships," Robert's cheerful voice joined the channel. "I'm going to deploy a standard deep core extraction charge. We use these to break up asteroids for easier material harvesting. Fair warning, it's a bit loud." Vorthen watched as the mining ship's mechanical arm extended, placing a cylindrical device against the asteroid's surface. The device began drilling immediately, boring into the dense rock with surprising speed. "How deep does it penetrate?" Morven asked. "Oh, this baby goes all the way to the core," Robert replied. "Usually takes about 8 minutes for a rock this size. We place the charge at the geometric center for optimal fragmentation pattern, makes collection easier afterward." Selter studied his tactical readouts. "Commander, I am detecting unusual energy signatures from that device. The power levels are inconsistent with standard mining equipment." "Robert," Admiral Wang said, "what's the yield on that charge?" "Let me check. This is a standard Class C unit, so about 45 megatons equivalent. Small one, really. We use the Class C charges for bigger rocks. Those go up to about 200 megatons." Silence filled the Calthurian command deck. Selter rechecked his instruments 3 times. "Did he say megatons?" Morven whispered. "That charge has reached optimal depth," Robert announced. "Detonating in 3, 2, 1, and there we go." The asteroid did not explode in the traditional sense. It simply stopped being a single object. The entire mass fragmented simultaneously into millions of pieces, expanding outward in a perfectly spherical debris cloud. The energy release lit up every sensor on the Calthurian fleet. "Beautiful fragmentation pattern," Robert said with satisfaction. "That's going to be easy to process. You folks need me to do another one, or was that enough of a show?" Vorthen stared at the expanding debris field. That device had the power of a strategic weapon. "Strategic weapon?" Robert sounded confused. No, this is just industrial equipment. We use these things every day out here. My company alone processes about 40 asteroids a month using these charges. Been doing it for decades." "How many of these charges exist?" Vorthen asked carefully. "In the belt? Oh, thousands probably. Every mining operation has them. They're cheaper than trying to break up asteroids with conventional drills or laser cutting. Plus, they're faster. Time is money out here." Admiral Wang spoke up. "Commander, Robert's operation is fairly typical. We have 47 active mining companies working the asteroid belt. Each one uses similar equipment. It's just how we do business." Morven leaned close to Vorthen. "Sir, if those are civilian industrial tools, what do their actual weapons look like?" "Would you like to see military hardware?" Wang asked, as if reading his thoughts. "We can arrange a different demonstration." "That would be informative," Vorthen said slowly. "Excellent, Robert, thanks for your help. We'll take it from here." Wang's image shifted to a different screen showing what appeared to be a military command center. "Commander, you're now connected to Luna Base Fire Control. They're going to demonstrate one of our orbital defense platforms." A new voice joined the channel, younger and more formal. "This is Lieutenant Park at Luna Base. We have a test firing authorized for Rail Platform 7. Target is a decommissioned satellite at bearing 275, range 50,000 kilometers. Vorthen's sensors tracked the mentioned platform, a relatively small installation on Luna's surface. It did not look particularly impressive. Rail guns are simple technology, Wang explained. Magnetic acceleration of dense projectiles to very high velocities. We've been using them for cargo launch for about 80 years. The military versions are just scaled up and more precise. Firing, Lieutenant Park announced. The rail platform released its projectile with an electromagnetic pulse that Vorthen's sensors barely registered. The tungsten rod, no larger than a human forearm, accelerated to 17% of light speed in under 2 seconds. The decommissioned satellite ceased to exist, so did a considerable volume of space around where it had been. Impact confirmed, target destroyed, Park reported. That's a standard defensive round, Commander. We have 97 platforms like this covering Earth's orbital space. Selter was performing calculations, his colors shifting toward distressed purples. Commander, at that velocity, even a small projectile carries enormous kinetic energy, and they have nearly 100 of these platforms. 112, actually, Wang corrected. We're installing 15 more next quarter. Luna Base is also home to our main missile batteries, but those are less interesting to demonstrate. They're just big missiles. Just big missiles, Morven repeated faintly. I have one more thing to show you, Wang said. This should help put everything in perspective. The screen switched to show Earth from high orbit. Highlighted markers began appearing across the planet's surface and in near-Earth space. Weapons platforms, defense stations, launch sites, and military installations. Hundreds of them, then thousands, each one tagged with capability ratings and current status. This is Earth's integrated defense network, Wang explained. Everything you're seeing is active and operational. The platforms Robert's mining charges, those are just industrial capacity that can be repurposed in an emergency. This network is what we actually built to defend our world. Vorthen studied the display, his 4 eyes tracking the sheer scale of human military preparation. You built all of this, he said quietly, for a system with no external threats. We built it, Wang said, because we knew external threats would eventually arrive, and we wanted to be ready to defend ourselves, or, preferably, to convince visitors that attacking us would be more trouble than it's worth. Your demonstration has been effective, Vorthen admitted. Good, now let's talk about trade agreements instead of weapons. I think you'll find humans make much better partners than enemies. Secretary General David Park stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Geneva complex, watching snowfall over the mountains. Behind him, representatives from 43 nations filled the emergency session chamber, their conversations creating a low murmur that never quite settled into silence. Ambassador Renan Ortiz approached with a data tablet. The Calthurians have agreed to preliminary talks. Vorthen is asking for a formal negotiation session. How long until their High Council responds? Park asked. Could be days, could be weeks. Calthurian bureaucracy moves slowly, according to our xenology team. Renan pulled up a report. But there's something interesting. Vorthen hasn't withdrawn his fleet. They're holding position, but they've powered down their weapons. That's significant. Park turned from the window. He's stalling, waiting to see if we'll make the first mistake. Or he's genuinely interested, but needs time to convince his superiors. Apparently, the Calthurian Empire has never failed to intimidate a species before. This is new territory for them. The chamber doors opened, and Admiral Wang entered, still in her uniform from the earlier demonstration. She looked tired but satisfied. The Calthurian tactical staff has been requesting information packets for 3 hours, Wang reported. They want to know about everything: our shipbuilding capacity, our resource extraction rates, our population distribution, our governmental structure. They're doing their homework. What are you telling them? Park asked. The truth, why not? It's all publicly available data anyway. If they'd done proper reconnaissance before showing up, they would have known all of this already. Renaa smiled. Their intelligence services must be having a terrible day. Show up expecting an easy conquest, find out the target species is functionally insane and heavily armed. We're not insane, Park said mildly. We just have different risk tolerances than most species. Because we've spent millennia risking everything constantly, Wang added. It changes your perspective. The main screen activated, showing Vorthan's image. The Calthurian commander looked less confident than during their first communication, but more thoughtful. Secretary General Park, I wish to propose a discussion. I'm listening, Commander. The Calthurian Empire did not come to Earth seeking trade partners. We came to expand our territory. However, circumstances have changed. I believe a diplomatic solution would benefit both our species. Park sat down, gesturing for the others to do the same. What kind of solution are you thinking? Vorthan hesitated, clearly working through unfamiliar concepts. Your species possesses industrial capabilities that surpass our own in several categories. Our species possesses medical technology and energy shielding that you lack. A technology exchange would be mutually beneficial. That's a reasonable starting point, Park agreed. What about territorial concerns? Your empire spans 47 systems. How does Earth fit into that? I would propose that Earth remain independent, a trade partner, not a subject world. And what happens when your High Council disagrees with that assessment? Wang asked. You said yourself they expect conquest. Vorthan's colors shifted, showing discomfort. The High Council operates on traditional conquest models. They may not understand why Earth cannot be easily subjugated. Then help them understand, Park said. You've seen our capabilities, you know our history, make them see what you see. I am one commander, Vorthan said. My voice is limited. Renaa leaned forward. What if it wasn't just your voice? What if we provided you with a complete analysis package? Full disclosure of human capabilities, history, psychology, everything you need to make your case. Morven appeared beside Vorthan on the screen. That would be unprecedented. Species do not typically share such comprehensive data with potential adversaries. Humans do, Park said simply. We've found that transparency works better than secrecy in the long run. Secrets create mistrust. Mistrust leads to conflict. We'd rather just be honest and deal with the consequences. Vorthan and Morven exchanged looks, some form of silent communication passing between them. We would need assurances, Vorthan said finally. If we return to the High Council with a proposal for diplomatic relations instead of conquest, and they reject it, we may be forced to return with orders to attack. Then we'll be here waiting, Wang said. And we'll fight if we must, but we'd much rather not. War is wasteful and stupid even when you win. Your species has an unusual relationship with conflict, Morven observed. You prepare for it extensively but seem to actively dislike it. That's because we know what it costs, Park said quietly. We've fought enough wars to understand that victory and survival aren't the same thing. We prefer survival. The screen flickered as new data transmission indicators appeared. Vorthan was receiving information from his ship. Commander, Selter's voice came through urgent. Long-range sensors have detected another fleet entering the system. Unknown configuration. They're not Calthurian. Wang was already moving, pulling up her own tactical displays. Can you identify them? Cross-referencing now. There was a pause. Sir, they match Drogan collective signatures, military fleet 73 vessels. Park felt his stomach drop. The Drogans are here. Renaa pulled up a file quickly. Drogan collective, aggressive expansionist species. Known for attacking weakened targets. If they've been watching our standoff with the Calthurians. They think we're vulnerable, Wang finished. Two fleets facing off, both potentially weakened. Perfect time to strike. Vorthan's image showed clear alarm. The Drogans are our rivals. If they attack while my fleet is here, they can eliminate both of us. Not if we work together, Park said immediately. You would ally with an invasion force, Vorthen asked, incredulous. You're not invading anymore, you're negotiating, and right now we have a common problem. Park looked at Wang. Admiral. We can coordinate defenses, Wang said, already running calculations. Your shield technology, our weapon systems, if we combine forces, we can hold them off. This is madness, Morven said. Hours ago, we were enemies. Hours ago, you were threatening us and we were laughing at you, Rena pointed out. Now we have an actual threat to deal with, enemy of my enemy and all that. Vorthen made a decision, his colors shifting to determined orange. Very well, I will coordinate with your Admiral Wang, but if this is a deception. It's not, Park said firmly. Humans lie about a lot of things, but we don't lie about threats to our homeworld. The Drogans want to attack Earth. That makes them our enemy, which temporarily makes you our ally. Temporarily, Vorthen repeated. For now, we'll argue about territory and trade agreements after we survive the next few hours. Agreed. Vorthen looked at his officers, then back at the humans. Agreed. Send me your tactical frequencies. As Wang began coordinating with the Calthurian fleet, Park turned to Rena. Add this to your report for the High Council, he said quietly. Humans form alliances quickly when necessary. Today's enemy can be tomorrow's ally if circumstances change. You think Vorthen will remember this? Rena asked. Park watched the tactical displays updating as human and Calthurian forces began coordinating their positions. I think he's about to learn what humans are like when we actually decide to fight. Drogan Commander Talvik reviewed the tactical situation with growing satisfaction. Two fleets, one Calthurian and one primitive human, facing each other in orbit of a single world. Both tired, both depleted, both vulnerable. It was almost too perfect. Broadcast to both fleets, Talvik ordered. Standard ultimatum. His communication. Officer complied, and Talvik's message echoed across all frequencies. Attention Calthurian and human forces. The Drogan Collective claims this system by right of superior force. Surrender your vessels immediately or be destroyed. You have 1 standard hour to comply. What happened next surprised him. The Calthurian fleet, instead of retreating or preparing for battle, began moving toward the human orbital stations. Energy signatures showed them docking, taking on supplies, coordinating shield frequencies with human defensive platforms. Sir, his tactical officer said uncertainly, the humans and Calthurians appear to be coordinating. Impossible, they were enemies an hour ago. Nevertheless, sir, I am detecting combined tactical networks forming. They are integrating their command structures. Admiral Wang's voice came through on an open channel. Commander Talvik, this is Admiral Patricia Wang of Earth's Defense Forces. You've made a tactical error. When you threatened us, you gave the Calthurians and humanity a common enemy. We're going to have to ask you to leave our system. You cannot defeat 73 warships, Talvik replied confidently. Probably not alone, but we're not alone anymore. Wang's transmission split to show both her and Vorthen on screen together. We've formed a temporary alliance, your move. Talvik studied his displays. The Calthurian shields were indeed impressive, now being synchronized with human defensive platforms. And the human weapons systems, those terrifying railguns and their industrial charges, were being positioned to cover gaps in Calthurian firing arcs. They are bluffing, he decided. All vessels advance, prepare to engage. The Drogan fleet moved forward in standard attack formation, a wall of warships designed to overwhelm through sheer numbers and firepower. Then the human fleet appeared. Ships decloaked throughout the inner system, emerging from positions behind moons, asteroids, even hiding in Earth's shadow. 200 vessels, each one bristling with weapons, their hulls dark and angular and clearly built for war. Where did they come from? Talvik demanded. They were cloaked, sir. Stealth technology we did not detect. Unacceptable. How advanced are these primitives? His tactical officer's colors showed deep concern. "Sir, those vessels are armed with weapons comparable to our own, and they outnumber us nearly 3-1 if we include both human and Calthurian forces." Admiral Wang's voice remained calm. "Those ships have names: Commander, Deterrent, Inevitable Consequence, Final Warning, Proportional Response. We named them after concepts, not victories, because we hoped we'd never need to use them. You're about to find out why." Vorthen joined in. "Commander Talvik, I recommend withdrawal. The humans are not bluffing about their capabilities." "You would side with primitives against the collective," Talvik snarled. "I would side with logic over pride. Retreat now before this becomes a massacre." Talvik made his decision. "All vessels engage, target the human ships first. They lack proper shielding." The Drogan fleet opened fire, plasma cannons and missile batteries launching a devastating barrage toward the human warships. The Calthurian fleet moved into position immediately, their shield generators creating overlapping defensive barriers that absorbed the first wave of attacks. Behind those shields, human railguns began firing, tungsten rods accelerating to impossible speeds. Talvik watched in growing horror as his ships began taking damage. The human kinetic weapons simply punched through Drogan armor, each hit precisely targeted at weapon systems and propulsion. Ships weren't exploding, they were being systematically disabled. "Why aren't they destroying our vessels?" his weapons officer asked. "Because humans prefer prisoners to corpses," Wang explained, her transmission cutting through the battle chatter. "We're disabling your ships, not destroying them. You'll get medical treatment after you surrender." "Madness," Talvik muttered, but the battle was clearly turning against him. His numerical advantage meant nothing against coordinated shields and precision weapons. Ship after ship fell silent, disabled but intact, their crews alive but helpless. "Sir, we've lost 47 vessels. The rest are requesting permission to withdraw." Talvik stared at the tactical display. In less than an hour, the humans and Calthurians had reduced his fleet to scattered remnants, and they'd done it while deliberately avoiding lethal force when possible. "All ships cease fire and surrender," he said finally. The words tasted like poison, but pride was no match for survival instinct. The human and Calthurian ships held their positions as Drogan vessels powered down weapons and shields. Tractor beams extended from human. Orbital stations, carefully pulling disabled ships to parking orbits. "Your crews will be treated fairly," Wang said. "Medical teams are already standing by. We'll begin diplomatic discussions about repatriation once everyone is stable." "You grant mercy to enemies?" Talvik asked, genuinely confused. "We grant mercy to everyone when possible," Wang replied. "We learned a long time ago that you can't bomb someone into being your friend. If we want peace, we have to act peaceful even when we're winning." Vorthen's flagship moved alongside Talvik's disabled vessel. "Commander, I will say this once. The humans are strange, but they are sincere. They would rather have traded partners than bodies floating in space. I suggest you listen to their offer." Talvik watched human medical ships approaching, saw their crews preparing to help his wounded, saw human and Calthurian forces working together as if they'd been allies for years, not hours. "I will listen," he said finally. "What choice do I have?" "You have every choice," Wang corrected gently. "That's the point. We're offering you the choice to walk away from this alive and negotiate like civilized beings. Most species would just destroy you and call it justice." "But humans are not most species," Talvik said slowly, beginning to understand. "No," Wang agreed. "We're really not. Welcome to Earth's orbit, Commander. Let's talk about how to make sure this never happens again." The battle ended not with explosions, but with tractor beams and medical transports. 3 fleets, 3 species, and somehow, against all logic, everyone survived. Vorthen watched it all unfold and understood why the Calthurian Empire's intimidation tactics had failed. You cannot intimidate a species that treats defeated enemies with compassion. Fear loses its power when met with kindness. 3 months after the battle, the Joint Research Station hung at Earth's Lagrange Point 5, a monument to unexpected alliances. The structure combined Calthurian shield technology, Drogan medical advances, and human industrial engineering into something none of the three species could have built alone. Vorthen stood at an observation window, watching shuttles move between the station and various ships. Calthurian, Drogan, and human vessels shared the same docking bays now, their crews learning to work together despite months of suspicion and conflict. "You look thoughtful, Admiral Wung," said, joining him at the window. She carried 2 cups of what humans called coffee, offering one to him. Vorthen accepted it carefully. He'd learned to tolerate the bitter human beverage, though he still didn't understand their fondness for it. "I am thinking about how I nearly destroyed all of this. You were following your orders and your training. Can't really blame you for that. My orders were to conquer Earth through intimidation. I failed spectacularly." Wung smiled. "You succeeded at something better. You helped create the first three-way alliance in this sector of space. The Calthurian High Council is already seeing benefits from the trade agreements." "They are?" Vorthen sipped the coffee, making a face that Wung had learned meant acceptance rather than disgust. "Our shield technology combined with your industrial capacity has revolutionized our manufacturing, and the Drogan medical advances have saved thousands of lives across our colonies. See, everybody wins when we cooperate instead of fight. A lesson humanity learned after centuries of conflict." "Yeah, well, we're slow learners sometimes. Took us long enough." Wung gestured to the station. "But once we figured it out, we committed to it. Peace is harder than war, but the results last longer." Secretary General Park joined them, looking pleased. "The Drogan High Chamber just ratified the final treaty provisions. We're officially allies now, all 3 species." Talvik approached from the other direction, his medical officer following. The Drogan commander had spent 2 weeks in human medical facilities after the battle, and his respect for human medicine had grown considerably. "Secretary General, Admiral, Commander Vorthen," Talvik nodded to each of them. "I bring news from the collective. We are establishing a permanent embassy on your station." "That's excellent news," Park said warmly. "We'll make sure you have adequate space and accommodations." "I volunteered to serve as the first ambassador," Talvik admitted. "I thought it appropriate since I was the one who attacked you." Wung laughed. "That's very human logic, turning your enemies into friends by giving them jobs." "Is it working?" Talvik asked. "You're here drinking terrible coffee and making small talk instead of shooting at us. So yeah, I'd say it's working." The observation deck filled with officers and diplomats from all 3 species, gathering for what had become a daily informal meeting. Humans called it networking. Calthurians called it inefficient socialization. Drogans called it mandatory relationship building. Everyone agreed it was somehow important. Ambassador Rena Ortiz stood up, getting everyone's attention. "Before we break for our respective duties, I wanted to share something. Earth's Council of Nations has approved a proposal for a joint military training program. Officers from all 3 species will train together in combined tactics and coalition warfare." Murmurs ran through the crowd, mostly positive. "Humans are very good at coalition warfare," Morven observed. "We learned this during our battle with the Drogans." "We've had a lot of practice," Wung admitted. "Spent most of our history fighting in alliances against other alliances. When we finally unified Earth, we kept all that institutional knowledge. Seemed wasteful to throw it away." "Your species wastes nothing," Vorthen said. "You convert every experience into lessons, every tool into potential weapons, every enemy into potential allies." "We prefer the term adaptable," Park said with a slight smile. "But yes, that's essentially correct. We survive by being flexible." A young Calthurian officer raised a hand hesitantly. "May I ask a question?" "Of course," Park said. "Why do humans help defeated enemies? The collective attacked you. Commander Vorthen threatened you, yet you treat us as friends now. This is inefficient, illogical." Park considered the question carefully. It's actually extremely logical, just on a longer timeline. If we destroyed the Drogon fleet completely, what would have happened? The collective would have sent more ships, Talvik admitted. Larger forces, the attack would have escalated. Exactly. Revenge cycles never end unless someone chooses to end them. We chose to end it by offering mercy and cooperation instead of death and domination. Park looked around at the assembled officers. Every person here represents a choice. The choice to build instead of destroy, to cooperate instead of compete, to see each other as partners instead of threats. This philosophy nearly got your species exterminated, a Drogon officer pointed out. True, Wung agreed. We came very close to annihilating ourselves several times, but we learned from those close calls. We learned that survival requires more than just weapons and threats. It requires trust, compromise, and the willingness to take risks on each other. Vorthen set down his empty coffee cup. The Calthurian High Council asked me to write a report on human strategic thinking. I struggled to explain your approach in terms they would understand. What did you tell them? Rena asked. I told them that humans weaponized cooperation the same way they weaponized everything else. That your greatest strength is turning enemies into allies faster than anyone can keep track. That conquering humanity is impossible because you will simply befriend the invasion force and convince them to join you instead. Laughter rippled through the crowd, human and alien alike. That's actually pretty accurate, Park admitted. We've been doing it to each other for thousands of years. We're very good at it by now. The meeting dispersed gradually, officers and diplomats breaking into smaller groups, conversations flowing naturally between species that 3 months ago had been pointing weapons at each other. Vorthen remained at the observation window, watching Earth turn slowly below. A blue and green world that had nearly destroyed itself, learned better, and now offered that hard-won wisdom to the galaxy. They are a strange species, Morven said, joining him. Yes, Vorthen agreed, but effective. Perhaps that strangeness is their advantage. What will you tell the High Council when you return? Vorthen considered. I will tell them that humanity cannot be conquered through intimidation because they have already intimidated themselves beyond anything we could inflict, that they cannot be defeated because they turn defeat into alliance, and that the Calthurian Empire's best strategy is to be their friend, not their enemy. And if the Council disagrees, then I will remind them of the 73 Drogon ships that thought they could defeat humanity through force. Vorthen smiled. And then I will suggest they drink some of this terrible coffee and think very carefully about their decision.